For all of the rankings that look at the world's top business schools, one of my favorite actually looks at the quality of the faculty and the learning experience that you're going to enjoy in the 1 or the 2 years of business school. And a school that consistently sits at the top of those rankings is Darden. They share with Harvard Business School a focus on the case method, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Stephanie Tharpe, who is a graduate of the class of 2009, who built a career pre-MBA, as Stephanie was explaining. She graduated from Rice in Houston back in 2000, just before Enron collapsed, and then graduated to, Stephanie, a very tough job market, but Darden has seen you through. You built a very impressive career with Barclays and Bernstein, and now as a VP at or a senior banking advisor at Northern Trust. So thank you very much for joining us at CentreCourt. The MBA is more than about just the class and the year that you graduate into. It sets you up to build a career for life, right?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I always kind of laugh about when I look back at what I thought I was going to get out of my MBA before going to business school and what I really have gotten out of it afterwards. When you're setting yourself up to find the right school, because that's important, you look at the network, you look at the teachers, and you also say, oh, I'm going to get a little bit more expertise and get that MBA after my title. It's really not about the MBA after your title at all. It is all about the experience while you're there, making the most of it, meeting the other students, meeting the faculty, and then continue to build your network after school. I'd have to say the years after my MBA and continuing to meet more people that are alumni from Darden has been most pivotal to me, because while you're in school, you build a really close network with the year that you're with, and then also the graduating year before you and below you. But there's so many other alumni out there. And so it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. Each year there's more and more people to meet, there's more and more alumni. And so I've really enjoyed that.
Darden, of course, in the beautiful setting in Charlottesville with UVA. It's a very close-knit community, and this focus on the case method. Do you think that sort of learning style then lends itself to the sort of bonds that you're building and the continued ties that you enjoy with the school?
Absolutely. So I'll break it up into two pieces. First, Charlottesville, the environment is huge, and then the case method is also very important. First, looking at Charlottesville, network is extremely important when you're looking at a business school. And Darden has a smaller class, usually in the mid 300s versus other larger schools. That could be some other schools that you'd be looking at. I know that when I was choosing Darden, I was looking at a larger school in New York when I was deciding finally. And I visited both. I knew I wanted to work in New York after business school, and all I had known before that was Houston, Texas, where I grew up and went to college. And so it was one of those where people always say this: you walk up to Darden grounds and you just know it immediately. You feel it. There's a feeling that you get when you walk into Charlottesville and into Darden. And yeah, there's like that feeling. But what that means is that you really get to step back from the stress and the rush of what you've been experienced before, and you really get to be present and enjoy the business school experience. And then with the lower number of students, you know everybody in your class. I mentioned that I wanted to go to New York. I did go to New York afterwards, and I became friends with people that would have been in the business school class that I was looking at with the other program in New York. We would go around the city, and they would run into people that were supposedly from their class, and they had never met them before. And that baffled me. That would never happen at Darden. You know exactly who everyone is in your class. And that is why the network is so strong, because everyone knows everyone in their class, and therefore they would do anything for that person in their class. And so then that extrapolates to other classes when you reach out to the alumni. That in itself is why you will always get a call back from an alumni, and someone's going to want to help you, versus some of the other programs that are too big. They just don't have that that camaraderie that you get at Darden. And Charlottesville is a big part of that, because also in a larger city like New York, people who go to school are then going to go back and either continue working, or they have their other networks that they go back to. Darden, Charlottesville is small in the most amazing way. You're going to want to form the bonds with all of your classmates, and it's really encouraged by the environment. Second, talking about the case method, this was something that was, well, both were important to me, but this was even more important to me. I was really struggling to find my voice in the business environment. In meetings and such, I just didn't feel comfortable speaking out. I always hated after a meeting would be over, I'd look back and be like, why didn't I say that? I should have said that. He said that, or she said that, and that was what I was thinking. Why didn't I just say it? And so case method was a way for me to push myself to be able to have to speak and think on my feet. And 100% that is what I got out of it. And a good case method program is pivotal around the professors. They have to know how to guide the conversation in a way that's productive and positive and keeps everything moving forward and doesn't get anybody frustrated. But you have someone who already studied finance in undergrad, or someone like me that studied biology in undergrad. And so the vast range of what people know is really hard to work with whenever you're trying to teach to the level of the entire class and have everybody either keep up or not get bored. And I'd say it absolutely kept me on my toes, and that's why I was there. And there were definitely many times I said just some idiotic things that you just get used to being laughed at, or honing your skill of being able to think on your feet. And that was so valuable that I use it every day in business. There's so many times in meetings or in front of managers, whenever you need to be able to get your point across professionally and not putting your foot in your mouth. So that was
Now, by the time you've got through over 300, I think it's about 320 cases in the 2 years of the MBA program at Darden, and also bringing in that very implicated and responsive alumni network, we're looking at a class of 2020 that faces the sort of uncertainties that you faced in 2009. Does that ability to then sort of think on your feet, adapt to both the discussions you had in class, then sort of play its way through into the workplace and obviously the career that you've been able to build?
I'll address that as in right after business school when it was still kind of crisis mode, and then most recently out of crisis mode in normal times. Right out of business school, it was, I interned at Lehman Brothers in 2008. Literally the summer, I left a week before it crumbled, and got to go back to Charlottesville and enjoy the Charlottesville environment while the world was falling apart. I had received my offer for my internship, and that summer only 20% of people or so received an offer, and that was not normal. Usually it was the majority of the people did. And so it was a tough summer, and at the end, I was lucky enough to get my offer and then come back to Charlottesville. Barclays took over Lehman, and I went back full time to Barclays working on the equities trading floor. So the equities trading floor, if anybody, most people might not be familiar with it, but it is like a big warehouse where you're sitting shoulder to shoulder with screens in front of you. It's a complete circus in the best way and the worst way. And you need to figure out how to have your own voice, understand how to display your value to everybody, because people are busy. They don't have time to watch and see if you're doing okay. And so you need to always be on your best. And Darden helped me do that. And the reason why I said I wanted to talk about crisis mode versus normal mode, when I was at Barclays, it was a terrible time for finance, a terrible time for New York. And so now I'm sitting on the trading floor, and all the trading floors were getting hit really hard. And so there were a lot of layoffs that were happening. And I we were all experiencing layoffs like every quarter. And I had to make sure that I never made it on the list, the layoff list. And it was a real fear. And because one day it would be first in, first out, the next day it would be actual high up managers. There was no one safe. And it was extremely important that you didn't make it easy for someone to put you on that list. And I scrambled and I worked and I made sure to always be doing my best and to be building my network like I did at Darden, building it within Barclays and creating morning newsletters and such where I could get my name in front of everybody and they knew my value. And so I found that extremely important. And I was able to get scrappy and resourceful and problem solve all from my experience at Darden. And it's hugely valuable. Normal times, a little less stressful times, what I have been in and still in right now because I'm on maternity leave, so I'm not actually working through this, which has been nice. I start on Friday getting back into this. Normal times now, my job is currently, I'm a senior banking advisor at Northern Trust here in DC, and my region I cover is the Mid-Atlantic, so Philadelphia to North Carolina. What that means is I help individuals and business owners with lending products for whatever they need. And so normal stuff of building a client book and being able to communicate well with them. But what Darden has really taught me is I have to go to credit committee to get my loans approved before I can then give the offering to the client. So I have to sit in front of a committee of people that are tough, and I don't know what questions they're going to ask me. There's no question list given to me ahead of time. It's just you bone up on what was going on in that loan, and you have to be ready for anything that's thrown at you. And there's times I don't know the answer, and it's okay to say you don't know the answer, but you better have to display a good understanding of what's going on and have great follow-up and just be able to really convince them why your loan or you are valuable and they want to get behind you. And so without the case method, that I would probably still be weak with that.
You mentioned maternity leave. Now, either you found love or you brought love with you to the Charlottesville campus. You were with your husband, and you went through the MBA. I mean, that's an unusual experience to actually go through the program together. How do schools ensure that, as a couple, you thrive? Obviously, they keep you very engaged in the classroom. Any thoughts on being a couple at business school?
That's another thing where Darden is different, and especially my class was different. I met my husband at business school, and so we kind of communicated a little bit before classes started because some fellow classmates put us in touch with each other to just share thoughts on what we're doing to prepare for business school. There were a lot of couples that met at Darden, my class, because we joked that the class before us, they didn't get along as well. So admissions tried really hard to make us get along to the point where I think I counted at one point that there was 13 or 14 couples that got married just within our class. And so when you just do the numbers of what percentage that means, it's a high percentage. And so it was interesting. And I just Darden itself, they don't need to do anything to make it still comfortable to be in a relationship while you're there. It's already just that friendly environment, team collaborative environment. And so it just kind of comes natural.
Right. So I guess, we talk about the return on investing in yourself at both a personal and professional level. You're certainly a wonderful demonstration of that. And any words of advice to the next generation, looking at Darden, you talked about the difference between that sort of campus-based environment in a city like Charlottesville versus the big city. What would your piece of advice be to future applicants?
Well, I did the full-time program. And so I stepped back from work to be able to be in the program full-time. And I would say in a time like now, that could probably feel pretty scary because you're leaving a position that you most likely are comfortable in, and you don't want to be changing you don't want to have too big of a changes right now in a crisis type situation. I'd say that this is probably one of the better times to do it, and to remove yourself and really challenge yourself is better because you become completely immersed, and everybody around you that's all they're doing is business school as well. And so that's part of what really helps you become even more tight knit. There's no other distractions out there. You're just hyper focused and present in your program.
What you're also describing is that courage and taking this opportunity.
Yes.
It's a crisis, but through that there will be opportunities. And I mean, you yourself are a great demonstration of how you've maximized those opportunities.
I just remember a story that it was very challenging. Like you said, Darden has a very rigorous case method program where, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that the Darden students work hard. They do that on purpose because they want you to learn how to work as a team. They give you so much work that you need to lean on your classmates. They don't want just individual thinkers. They want team players. And it was a lot. It was a lot to get used to. I remember that first quarter looking around and being like, is everyone else around me feeling as underwater as I do? And of course, no one's going to tell you because we're all type A and we want to pretend like we have it together. And this is the first time I'm taking accounting or finance or anything after my biology undergrad. And I thought several times, I was like, maybe I could just go back to my full-time job because I don't know if I'm going to hack this. This is a lot. And then when you finally get over yourself, get over your ego and start talking to people, leaning on your team members, you realize that everyone's got their vulnerabilities. It's just learning how to work as a team, learning how to raise your hand and say, I need help. And then that was just huge after that. And so you need to push yourself. You need to get out of your comfort zone, and going to business school is a great way to do that.
Also, some of the team building skills and leadership skills for a young parent and your family. So thank you for towards the end of your maternity leave, and good luck with the return to work on Friday. Thank you for finding the time to share some really fascinating perspectives. I'm sure that next generation, as they similarly consider that big step and investing in themselves, I think they'll find great inspiration and comfort in your words and the wonderful example. So Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much.